Hey everyone, tonight we're going to step back into a world that's sandy, hot, and surprisingly complicated. Imagine waking up with grains of sand between your teeth, sun blazing directly into your eyes, and the realization slowly dawning that you've somehow ended up in ancient Egyptes, the Egypt of pharaohs, sphinxes, and gigantic triangular tombs. Sounds exotic, right? But I have some bad news. As exciting as the movies make it seem, you probably won't survive. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and the local time in the comments below. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. I blink my eyes open slowly, squinting hard as harsh sunlight floods into view. My skin feels rough, and every muscle aches like I've just lost a wrestling match to a hippo. A quick glance around makes it painfully clear I'm lying in the middle of a vast desert, wearing nothing but some rough linen garments that itch like crazy. Yep, this is ancient Egypt, all right. And judging by the frantic shouting and chaos echoing in the distance, it's not exactly a pleasure cruise on the Nile. Stumbling to my feet, I nearly trip over a half-asleep donkey that brays. In irritation, sorry buddy. Ahead, the silhouette of a massive structure takes shape on the horizon, shimmering through the relentless heat waves. It hits me all at once. I'm looking at the future Great Pyramid of Giza. Spoiler alert, it's not even half finished yet, and I'm already tired just staring at it. A burly guy with a surprisingly fancy kilt stomps over, waving a papyrus scroll around like he's swatting invisible bees. He glares at me with the look of someone who's never heard the phrase "employee of the month." You there? He growls, pointing directly at my confused face. Why are you standing around like you've just seen Ra himself? Grab those ropes and start pulling. My first thought, wait, ropes, pulling, like manual labor. But before I can voice any of my very legitimate concerns about workplace safety or the lack of air conditioning, the overseer shoves me toward a chaotic crowd of workers. They're all yelling instructions at each other, none of which seem to align. So far, ancient Egyptian project management feels suspiciously similar to a bad group project in school. Except, no one's invented coffee yet, so everyone's extra cranky. Stepping cautiously toward the tangled mess of ropes, I try not to stare at the massive stone blocks looming like angry elephants. Seriously, these things look impossible to move. They're as big as small cars and probably weigh more than a herd of cows. And apparently, my new job is dragging these monsters across hot sand without shoes. Ancient Egyptian HR clearly needs to reconsider their footwear policy. The fellow workers give me skeptical looks, clearly noticing my hesitation. An older guy sporting a patchy beard and suspiciously large biceps chuckles, his voice sounding like sandpaper rubbing together. "First day, huh?" he says, offering me a weary smile. "Stick with me, kid. This isn't a job you get used to. You just learn to stop complaining after a while." Well, that's reassuring. The guy nudges me toward a pile of ropes lying twisted in the sand. Each rope is thick, scratchy, and reeks suspiciously of donkey sweat. Trust me, that's not a smell you want in your face first thing in the morning. Grabbing one hesitantly, I wrap it around my hands, instantly regretting it as rough fibers dig into my palms. A horn blasts suddenly, a piercing note that cuts through the morning haze. It's our signal to begin. Around me, men grunt and lean forward, pulling as one unified grouper, at least attempting to. The stone block grudgingly starts moving with a gut-wrenching groan that perfectly matches my inner despair. After barely 3 minutes of hauling, sweat drips from my face like a small waterfall, burning my eyes. Meanwhile, the older guy pulls effortlessly beside me, whistling casually as if he's on a relaxing Sunday stroll. "Don't worry," he grunts encouragingly. "Only about 20 years of this to go." Fantastic. Just 20 years. I was worried it might be difficult or something, but beneath the sarcasm, panic bubbles up. 20 years. I'm not even sure I'll survive 20 minutes. Yet despite the crushing weight and blistering heat, a weird sense of wonder creeps in. I'm actually here, contributing to one of the most iconic structures humanity will ever build. It's a thought, how many future historians will marvel at these stones, completely oblivious to the guys sweating buckets just trying to get 1 inch of progress. The overseer's voice snaps me back to reality, yelling something about moving faster. Faster. I'd love to see him try pulling this thing, but here I am anyway. digging my toes into burning sand and leaning forward again, determined not to collapse immediately. After all, it's only my first morning dot up ahead. More blocks wait in an endless line, stretching toward eternity, or at least it feels that way. Already, my muscles tremble with exhaustion, and the day has barely started. Yet despite the pain, sandburns, and total confusion, part of me is curious. How exactly did these ancient Egyptians manage something so huge, so impossibly ambitious? Guess there's only one way to find out. Welcome to my life as an Egyptian pyramid built. See if we survive the day. My muscles feel like limp noodles as the morning sun climbs higher into a sky that seems determined to roast us alive. After spending hours dragging stone blocks through sand so hot it could probably bake bread, and, seriously, someone should have thought about opening an ancient Egyptian bakery out here, I'm starting to question my life choices. Actually, scratch that. I'm mostly wondering how on earth I ended up here in the first place. The chaos around me is almost impressive. Workers shout conflicting instructions, ropes snap without warning, and every few minutes someone trips over a misplaced tool or loose rock, landing face first in the unforgiving sand. Ancient Egypt might have been advanced in many ways, but clearly, workplace safety was not one of their strong suits. You've got to tie it tighter, shouts a sweaty supervisor, waving his arms wildly at a poor guy who's desperately wrestling with a knot. What are you, some kind of Babylonian spy? Spy, really? Honestly, this supervisor could give my 5th grade PE teacher a run for his money in terms of motivational speaking. The worker mutters something I'm pretty sure isn't safe for a family-friendly YouTube channel and returns to wrestling with his stubborn knot dot beside me. The older guy from earlier, the one with biceps bigger than my head, chuckles softly. He seems surprisingly calm amid the chaos, wiping his brow and leaning casually against a half-carved stone that's probably destined to become the cornerstone of the pyramid, or something equally important. Relax, newbie, he says, noticing my obvious panic. It's always like this on the first day. Eventually, you learn to ignore the yelling. Does the yelling ever stop? I ask hopefully. No. He grins. You just go a little deaf, comforting. But I decide I like this guy. His name turns out to be Joseph, the famous pharaoh. Just a regular guy unlucky enough to share a name with someone historically important. It must be like being named Beyoncé today. You'd constantly disappoint people. Joseph leads me toward another pile of ropes and stones, calmly explaining the job. Apparently, today's chaos is partially because we're receiving stone shipments from different quarries simultaneously, and no one bothered to coordinate deliveries. Who knew logistics could be so complicated without GPS tracking and spreadsheets? It's almost as if ancient Egyptians expected miracles from sweaty men wearing skirts. As we work, Joseph patiently teaches me the ropes, quite literally. He shows me the correct way to loop ropes around the stones, how to tie knots that won't spontaneously unravel, and even how to dodge supervisors without appearing lazy. He's like the ancient Egyptian Yoda, just with fewer wrinkles and more sand stuck in his beard. We drag stone after stone across endless dunes, each block heavier than the last, until I'm pretty sure my arms have stretched a full 2 inches longer. Finally, we pause briefly in the meager shade provided by one of the unfinished walls, gulping water from clay jars and gasping for air like stranded fish. So, I pant, catching my breath. Do you ever wonder why they decided building massive triangles in the desert was a good idea? Joseph shrugs. The pharaoh wants immortality. Big triangles apparently do that better than small squares. Fair enough. Ancient Egyptians were serious about their geometry. It's kind of wild though. Pharaoh Khufu probably sat around one day, looked at a sandy hill, and said, "You know what this place needs? A giant stone triangle that will mystify people thousands of years from now." And everyone around him probably nodded wisely, too afraid of crocodile-infested punishment to disagree. But honestly, despite my internal complaining, it is pretty impressive. These stones come from quarries miles away, and somehow, without cranes, trucks, or anything remotely helpful, we're moving them across sand that feels like scorching lava. A few blocks away, I spot another crew trying to lever a massive granite slab onto wooden rollers. They're arguing loudly about the best angle, and one particularly angry fellow insists on using palm oil to grease the path. I make a mental note to avoid walking anywhere near that slippery disaster. Is it always this chaotic? I ask. glancing nervously toward the roller crew, now shouting at each other about the viscosity of palm oil. Seriously, I didn't expect my pyramid building experience to involve so much debate about cooking ingredients. Josa laughs deeply. Chaos is our constant companion, friend. Without it, we'd actually finish on time, and nobody wants to set unrealistic expectations for the next pyramid. I chuckled despite myself, wiping sweat from my forehead and trying not to think about how red my skin must be getting. Ancient Egyptians probably used some strange remedies for sunburn, maybe crocodile dung, or something equally pleasant. Honestly, given how strange this place is turning out, it wouldn't surprise me at all as the sun edges higher, casting shorter shadows and harsher rays. A loud horn blasts again, signaling lunch break. My stomach growls loudly enough to startle a passing donkey, who brays indignantly. "Sorry again, buddy." Josa gives me an encouraging nod. "Come on," he says, gesturing toward the distant food tents. Lunch is the only part of the day worth the sweat. Finally, something that sounds promising. Walking toward the tents, I realize this is only my first morning and I'm already sunburned, exhausted, and covered head to toe in sand. Yet, weirdly, I'm smiling. Sure, this is probably the hardest labor I've ever experienced and hopefully ever will, but it's also strangely thrilling. Maybe it's the camaraderie of my fellow workers, the shared struggle against ropes and sand, or just the sheer awe of contributing to something so massive. Or maybe I've already gotten heat stroke and lost my mind, honestly. Either explanation seems reasonable at this point. Either way, I shuffle toward lunch, praying that whatever's waiting for us in those tents tastes better than it smells from here. Welcome to ancient Egypt, where chaos reigns, pyramids rise, and you'd better learn to love onions because apparently we're about to eat a whole bunch of them. I'm not sure what I expected lunch to be like, but staring down at a plate filled mostly with onions, stale bread, and something suspiciously resembling dried fish jerky definitely wasn't on my culinary bucket list. The sun's rays pierce through the thin fabric of our food tent, turning it into a kind of sauna where sand is mysteriously seasoning every bite. Honestly, ancient Egyptians really could have benefited from a salt shaker, or at least a bit of hot sauce. How did humans build one of the greatest wonders of the world while fueled mainly by onions and gritty bread? This has to be some kind of ancient miracle. I glance at Josa, who enthusiastically crunches into an onion as if it's a juicy apple. "These are good today," he announces, bits of onion flying enthusiastically in my direction. "Good compared to what?" I reply, cautiously nibbling a corner of my bread that feels hard enough to serve as a doorstop. "Compared to famine," he says cheerfully. "Touché, Josa." Touch acute dot around us. Men talk animatedly, their conversations drifting from work complaints, mostly about supervisors who clearly attended ancient Egyptian school for yelling to the upcoming religious festivals, where rumors claim there might be actual meat served. Meat, real meat. Suddenly, I have new motivation to survive this pyramid building business. That as we sit eating our questionable lunch, a heated discussion erupts nearby. Two workers are passionately debating the proper way to move the stones more efficiently. One argues that pouring water over sand makes the stones glide smoothly, while the other insists that Oilius, the palm oil guy from earlier, would work better. They're shouting so loudly, I'm half expecting Pharaoh Khufu himself to show up. And referee Josa chuckles quietly. Every week, a new theory. Next they'll say the stones move faster if we whisper sweet nothings to them. Have they tried asking politely yet? I joke, finally daring a larger bite of onion. It burns my tongue, but at least it masks the sandy aftertaste. Actually, Josa grins conspiratorially. There's a rumor that some priest did chant spells over the stones, said it would make them lighter. Personally, I think they just wanted an excuse not to help. Honestly, at this point, chanting seems as good a strategy as any. I imagine teams of priests whispering encouragement to giant slabs of limestone. "Come on, buddy, you can do it." If only motivation were enough to defeat gravity. Lunch ends too soon though, considering the taste. Perhaps not soon enough. We shuffle back into the blazing heat, heading toward another massive stone waiting ominously atop wooden rollers. My shoulders already ache just looking at it. To my relief, we're assigned to ropes again, though these ropes somehow manage to be even scratchier than before. Seriously, who's the ancient Egyptian rope maker, and why does he hate comfort so much? Together, our team lines up, gripping ropes tightly, Josa gives me a reassuring nod, silently promising we'll survive the afternoon. Another horn blasts, and we lean forward, pulling with synchronized groans. At first, the block refuses to move, seemingly glued to the sand. But gradually, with sheer stubborn determination, we drag it inch by painful inch. A young worker suddenly slips, landing painfully in the sand, but quickly scrambles to his feet, dusting himself off while glancing nervously toward the supervisors. Fortunately, they're too busy yelling at another team that somehow managed to steer their stone block sideways, forming a makeshift barricade against any further progress. I briefly wonder if this is the first recorded traffic jam in human history. Hey, Josa calls out, "Careful there. We don't have enough moldy bread to heal broken bones today." Wait, moldy bread? Did I hear that correctly? Josa notices my confused expression and laughs heartily. "Yeah, moldy bread," he says casually. "The healers slap it on wounds. Supposedly it stops infections or something." Who knew ancient Egyptians had accidentally discovered antibiotics thousands of years before modern medicine? But honestly, I'd rather not test that particular remedy personally. I'll take my antibiotics, neatly packaged and mold-free. Thank you very much. The afternoon wears on relentlessly, each stone heavier than the last, each rope rougher, each supervisor louder. Sweat stings my eyes, and my skin feels like it's sizzling, turning into the world's least appetizing bacon. At one point, a sudden gust of wind kicks up a swirl of sand, covering us in gritty particles and temporarily blinding everyone. Ancient Egypt really needs to work on its special effects. Sandstorms might look cool in movies, but here they're just plain annoying. Blinking painfully through sandy eyelashes, I sigh loudly. Does this ever get easier? I mutter, "Nope." Josa replies cheerfully. But eventually, you stop, asking, "Fair enough." I continue hauling, pretending the ropes don't feel like they're scraping layers of skin from my palms. Occasionally, we pass other teams, each battling their own unique disasters. One team's rollers have broken completely, and they're arguing about who should fetch replacements. Another group has abandoned their ropes entirely and is attempting to push the stone uphill using sheer manpower and possibly sheer stupidity. Maybe aliens really would have made this easier. I joke, breathing heavily. I hear they're great with heavy lifting. Josa smirks knowingly. Aliens? Nah, those guys would have taken one look at this and flown straight back home. He has a point. Even extraterrestrials probably have their limits. Finally, mercifully, the sun begins to dip lower in the sky, signaling that our grueling shift is nearing its end. My body feels like one giant bruise, and I'm pretty sure there's enough sand in my sandals to build a miniature pyramid dot with one last collective heave. We position our stone in place, each of us letting out an exhausted cheer. Today's progress might seem minimal, but every stone placed feels like a small victory against gravity itself. Josa claps me on the shoulder, grinning. "See, you're still alive," he says, obviously pleased. "You're practically a veteran now." Veteran after just one day. Somehow, that's oddly comforting, even if I can barely move my arms. Together, we trudge back toward camp, the air thick with fatigue, but also a strange sense of camaraderie. I'm bruised, blistered and sand-covered, but weirdly, I feel a sense of accomplishment. Maybe pyramid building isn't all bad. Then again, ask me again tomorrow when I inevitably discover more muscles I didn't even know existed. Until then, here's to onions, moldy bread medicine, and surviving another day in ancient Egypt's greatest and sweatiest construction project. Evening descends quickly over the desert, painting the sky with vibrant purples and deep oranges that look like something straight out of an ancient Instagram filter. It's stunning, but after the brutal day I've had, my appreciation for beauty is slightly diminished by the sharp stinging sensation of sand lodged in uncomfortable places. Honestly, who knew sand could infiltrate clothing so aggressively? If ancient Egyptians had invented underwear, it would have probably been the single greatest advancement of their civilization. As I shuffle back toward the workers' camp alongside Josa, I feel every single aching muscle and blistered toe. Despite the exhaustion, a sense of relief washes over me. At least for tonight, the ropes, the yelling supervisors, and those impossibly heavy stones are behind us. I briefly fantasize about a warm shower, only to remember that showers don't exist here. Instead, we'll be lucky if we find a bucket of water to splash ourselves clean, and even luckier if there isn't already a crocodile lurking inside it. we reach the sprawling camp, filled with modest huts made from mud bricks, straw mats, and whatever random materials workers have scavenged. Josa guides me toward our hut, which surprise is already occupied by several weary-looking workers lounging on reed mats and chatting quietly. New guys survived the first day, Josa announces with exaggerated enthusiasm. A chorus of tired chuckles greets me, along with friendly nods and encouraging grins. One guy, significantly younger than the others, offers me a small cup of water. Drink slowly, he advises earnestly. It's from the Nile, Great Nile water, because the only thing better than exhaustion is risking a bout of ancient dysentery. But my thirst wins over caution, and I take careful sips, savoring each drop despite its slightly murky texture. Honestly, at this point, I'd probably drink straight crocodile sweat if someone offered it. As we settle in, a breeze gently rustles the palm fronds that form our hut's flimsy roof, and the conversation slowly turns to lighter topics. Surprisingly, pyramid workers love their gossip almost as much as modern office workers. Today's hot topic: a scandal involving one of the supervisors caught sneaking extra rations of dried fish. Apparently, in ancient Egypt, nothing enrages a tired workforce like someone hoarding smelly fish snacks. An older worker named Imhotep, again, not the famous one, but another unfortunate naming coincidence, leans forward, dramatically whispering. They say he hid the fish under his kilt. I can't imagine the smell. We burst into laughter, relieved to think about something other than ropes and stones. Well, Josa smirks. At least it wasn't onions. Imagine trying to hide those. We all groan. Onion breath is already bad enough. Onion pants would be downright unbearable. Soon, the conversation shifts towards something a bit more serious: Egyptian gods. It seems even exhausted workers love discussing theology when it involves gods who look suspiciously like zoo animals. Imhotep insists that Ra, the sun god, must favor our project, since we haven't yet dropped any massive stones on anyone important. Another worker argues passionately that Osiris, god of the afterlife, deserves the credit. Considering how many close calls we've had today, maybe the gods are all just really into triangles. I joke, drawing puzzled looks. Apparently, sarcasm hasn't fully caught on yet in ancient Egypt. Think about it, triangles are clearly the most divine shape. Circles are overrated. Josa chuckles appreciatively. Careful, newbie, or they'll start calling you the philosopher of Giza. Better than fish-kilt guy, I retort, drawing more laughter. Our banter is interrupted when someone from another hut loudly announces they've heard Pharaoh Khufu might visit the site soon. A tense silence falls over our little gathering, broken only by someone coughing awkwardly in the background. Khufu himself, Josa whispers, his voice tinged with a mix of reverence and mild panic. I thought he rarely leaves his palace. Do you think he'll actually show? The guy shrugs nervously. That's what the supervisor said. Apparently, he wants to personally inspect progress. Great, as if hauling gigantic blocks of stone wasn't stressful. Enough. Now we have to worry about impressing a guy who literally thinks he's descended from gods. No pressure at all. After a moment, Imhotep clears his throat thoughtfully. You know, he begins slowly. My grandfather worked on the bent pyramid back in Pharaoh Sneferu's time. He told me that whenever Sneferu visited, everyone pretended to work twice as fast just to keep him happy. Maybe Khufu will be easier. We all glance skeptically at each other. Easier. Pharaoh Khufu is notoriously demanding. He probably measures stone placement accuracy using a hair from his own divine beard. Something tells me our workload is about to double just to impress the boss. Still, there's something comforting about our quiet camaraderie tonight. Despite the aching bodies, sand-filled sandals, and terrifying possibility of a royal inspection, this moment feels oddly peaceful. Outside, the stars shimmer brilliantly against the dark sky, untouched by modern light pollution, illuminating the desert in ways I've never seen before. Ancient Egypt might have been harsh and demanding, but it knew how to stage a gorgeous night sky. Eventually, the hut quiets down as everyone begins drifting toward sleep, exhaustion pulling us into slumber faster than any lullaby ever could. Beside me, Josa snores softly, sounding suspiciously like an overheated donkey, though I'd never say that to his face. As sleep overtakes me, I reflect on my strange new reality. Somehow, despite the chaos, grueling labor, and questionable diet of onions and sand, I'm surviving. Maybe ancient Egypt isn't so terrible after all. Sure, it's messy, complicated, and often bewildering, but there's something incredible about witnessing history from the inside, stone by painstaking stone. Still, I'd trade half my daily ration of onions for a decent pillow right about now. Tomorrow promises another brutal day of stone-hauling adventures, and possibly Pharaoh Khufu's royal inspection, a combo I wouldn't exactly call ideal. But tonight, beneath the endless stars and surrounded by quiet snores, I feel strangely content. I guess when you're building the greatest pyramid the world will ever know, surviving the day really is enough. I'm awakened abruptly by the unmistakable sound of shouting and footsteps racing past our hut, along with the muffled complaints of men trying desperately to keep sleeping. Sitting up groggily, I glance at the other workers, most of whom are still curled up in a variety of uncomfortable-looking positions. Joser is snoring blissfully, completely undisturbed. Seriously, that guy could probably sleep through an earthquake. Poking my head cautiously outside, I immediately regret the decision. The sky has turned an eerie shade of orange, and a hot, dusty wind blows fiercely, whipping sand painfully into my eyes. It's a sandstorm, my first real sandstorm. Actually, and I'm quickly realizing they're a lot less fun in reality than they look in movies. Ancient Egypt really missed the chance to invent sunglasses. Sandstorm, someone shouts unnecessarily, rushing past me with his head wrapped in fabric like an oversized mummy. Secure the ropes. Ropes. Seriously, even in a storm we can't escape the ropes. I duck back inside, shaking Joser awake, which turns out to be about as effective as waking a sleepy hippo. Wah, he mumbles sleepily. Is it lunchtime already? No, I snap impatiently. It's a sandstorm. Apparently, we're supposed to secure ropes or something. Joser groans loudly. Of course, can't even have a decent natural disaster without work. Together, we stumble outside, barely able to see through swirling clouds of sand that sting our exposed skin. Workers are frantically tying down tents, securing stones, and desperately trying to prevent valuable equipment from blowing away. I'm pretty sure I see someone chasing after a runaway sandal, shouting curses loud enough to be heard over the wind. Even in ancient Egypt, footwear theft by wind was apparently a thing. A supervisor, yes. Even during sandstorms, supervisors somehow remain vigilant, shouts orders, his voice barely audible over the roaring wind. Get those stones secure. Pharaoh Khufu's inspection is imminent. Imminent. Did he just say imminent? As in right now, during a sandstorm. Either Pharaoh Khufu has a seriously questionable sense of timing, or our supervisor is delirious from heat stroke, or both. Probably both. As we struggle to tie down loose ropes, Joser and I exchange exasperated glances. The sandstorm rages around us, turning the air a gritty shade of brownish fringe, filling my mouth and eyes with sand particles I'm sure I'll still be finding weeks later. My ancient Egyptian skincare routine clearly needs work. Nearby, a large tent suddenly collapses, sending fabric flapping violently and scattering workers who dive for cover. Chaos reigns, and through it all, supervisors yell desperately to maintain order and effort, about as effective as herding angry cats. Think Khufu would notice if we just hid in the collapsed tent? I ask half seriously, tugging at a particularly stubborn rope knot. Joser smirks, coughing out sand. Probably not, but he'd definitely notice the supervisor yelling at the tent. Best not to tempt fate. Fair enough. Fate clearly has a sense of humor today anyway. Gradually, the wind subsides enough for us to see more than a few feet ahead. The damage is extensive equipment scattered everywhere, ropes frayed, stones partially buried. Miraculously, no one seems seriously hurt, though plenty of workers stumble around coughing, rubbing sand from irritated eyes. If ancient Egyptians had invented eye drops, someone here would have made a fortune. The supervisor surveys the chaos, visibly furious. This must be a bad omen, he mutters darkly. The gods are displeased. Pharaoh Khufu will be furious. Great, as if we didn't have enough to worry about. Now we've angered ancient Egyptian deities. I briefly wonder which god specifically handles sandstorms, probably Set, known for chaos and mischief. Personally, I think Set might just be bored and decided to spice things up. Pyramid building can get tedious, even for gods. Exhausted, we drag ourselves toward the main site, picking up scattered tools along the way. The stones we painstakingly dragged yesterday are now half covered in sand, meaning we'll probably spend the next few hours digging them out again. I seriously question whether building immortality triangles in the desert was ever a smart plan. As we begin the tedious work of clearing sand from stones, murmurs spread that Khufu's inspection is delayed. Surprise due to the storm. Relief floods through our weary ranks, but supervisors sternly remind us this just means Khufu will expect even more perfection tomorrow. Thanks guys, way to boost morale. While we dig and curse softly, Jose shares amusing stories of past sandstorms, including one about a donkey being mistaken for a missing worker during a particularly bad storm. The donkey had apparently found shelter inside someone's hut, calmly munching bread while everyone panicked, searching for a supposed lost worker. Ancient Egypt really had a knack for comedic timing. Hours later, covered head to toe in gritty sand, we finally finish re-clearing yesterday's work. The sun now hangs lower in the sky, casting long shadows over tired faces. Despite everything, the pyramid is still standing, partially built, stubbornly defiant in the face of nature's tantrum. It's strangely inspiring, even if it feels like the gods themselves are testing our patience. Heading back to camp, I overhear another supervisor anxiously debating the significance of the storm. Perhaps the pyramid alignment displeased Ra, he whispers nervously. Alignment. Apparently, there's endless academic debate, even among ancient Egyptians, about pyramid alignment methods, whether it's celestial, sacred geometry, or just plain luck. I silently bet on luck. Back at the hut, we collapse onto mats, utterly spent. Workers exchange tired jokes about sandstorm-induced hairstyles, and someone mentions finding sand in places no sand should ever venture. Laughter ripples through our exhausted ranks, a welcome relief from today's relentless chaos. As stars reappear, sparkling brightly in the calm, clear sky, I reflect on another insane day of pyramid-building adventures. Ancient Egypt is a world of constant challenges, harsh supervisors, questionable meals, and sandstorms capable of burying entire teams alive. But somehow, through all the madness, we're surviving, learning resilience, patience, and maybe even a little humility along the way. Jose grins sleepily beside me. See, even sandstorms can't stop us. We'll get this pyramid built, even if the gods decide to turn all our bread into onions. I groan dramatically. Don't give them ideas. He laughs softly, quickly drifting into sleep. As I lay staring at the stars, sand still prickling my skin, I realize he's right. Pyramid building isn't glamorous, easy, or remotely comfortable. Somehow, we're making it work, one stormy day at a time. Now, if only ancient Egypt could invent showers, life here might be almost bearable. Night falls quietly, like someone gently laying a blanket across the desert, finally covering the scars left by today's wild sandstorm. After the day we've had, it's astonishing how calm everything suddenly feels. The stars blink slowly overhead, shimmering brightly against the deep velvet sky. And despite my aching body and sand-filled ears, seriously, ancient Egypt should have invented Q-tip's eye. Find myself gazing upward, captivated by the vastness above. Jose is already asleep beside me, emitting soft rhythmic snores. Around the hut, everyone else has either drifted into dreamland or is quietly murmuring, probably exchanging conspiracy theories about secret chambers or debating which god deserves blame for today's chaos. Egyptians clearly loved a good cosmic drama. My mind, though exhausted, remains restless. Maybe it's the sandstorm still swirling in my memory, or perhaps the constant anticipation of Pharaoh Khufu's impending visit, but sleep stubbornly refuses to come. So instead, I sit quietly, my back pressed against the rough wall of our hut, my thoughts wandering across the endless landscape of sand and stars. Ancient Egyptians believed the stars were gods watching over humanity, a comforting idea after a day like today. But honestly, if the stars really are gods, they've got a strange sense of humor. Maybe they're up there right now, chuckling over today's misadventures, amused by our frantic efforts to build something massive and eternal out here in the unforgiving sand. A soft breeze drifts through the hut, carrying the faint, distant cry of a night animal, maybe a jackal prowling for leftovers. Strangely, the sound isn't unsettling. It feels oddly reassuring, reminding me that life persists out here despite everything. Nature has a quiet resilience, a lesson I'm starting to learn firsthand in this sandy wilderness. Nearby, the Nile flows, gently, unseen in the dark, but always present a lifeline for Egypt, giving life to everything around it. Tomorrow will undoubtedly return to its banks, either hauling more stones or seeking relief from the blazing sun. The river is a constant companion, both nurturing and threatening, offering refreshment and hiding crocodiles. Ancient Egypt loves its contradictions. I stretch slowly, feeling every muscle protest. It's hard to believe I've only been here a short while. My first day feels like ages ago, each stone dragged across the sand, etched deeply into memory. Yet tonight, beneath the stars, my mind drifts to simpler things: home, comfort, and oddly enough, the taste of something other than onions. Who knew I'd miss modern snacks so desperately? You awake, newbie? Joser murmurs groggily from beside me, interrupting my reverie. Apparently, even half asleep, he senses my insomnia. Yeah, I whisper back softly, careful not to disturb anyone else. Just thinking about today, well, and tomorrow. He chuckled softly, his voice filled with gentle sarcasm. Try not to think too hard. Thinking makes tomorrow harder. I smile in the dark, knowing he's probably right. How do you stay so calm, Joser? Doesn't this place ever get to you? He pauses thoughtfully, sighing quietly. You know, when you've done this as long as I have, you learn a secret. I lean in, intrigued. And what's that? He smiles faintly. The secret is, you stop worrying about the end. You just focus on surviving the next stone. Eventually, the pyramid takes care of itself. His words linger in my mind, simple yet deeply profound. Ancient Egyptian philosophy probably revolved around survival, onions, and sandstorms. But tonight, it feels exactly right. Tomorrow might bring chaos, Khufu's royal inspection, or more relentless stone hauling, but none of that matters right now. Tonight, there's just the gentle breeze, the endless stars, and a quiet friend offering words of comfort. In the distance, another faint animal cry echoes, blending softly into the nighttime melody. I imagine the animals watching our strange human activities from afar, probably confused by our obsession with giant triangles. Even the jackals must think we're slightly insane. Think they'll ever finish it? I whisper, half joking. Or are we destined to haul stones forever? Joser snorts softly. They'd better finish, otherwise Khufu's going to have some awkward explaining to do to the gods. We share a quiet laugh, careful not to wake anyone else. There's something oddly comforting in humor even when it's tinged with exhaustion and quiet sarcasm. Maybe that's why Egyptians loved storytelling so much. It distracts from aching bodies, harsh supervisors, and never-ending construction projects. My eyelids begin feeling heavier, finally succumbing to exhaustion's gentle pull. Before sleep takes hold, I glance up once more at the stars, silently thanking whichever cosmic deity is responsible for quiet nights after chaotic days. Tomorrow promises more challenges for Khufu's looming inspection. Another day under scorching sun, and probably more sand in uncomfortable places. But tonight, in this fragile moment, everything feels strangely perfect. Ancient Egypt might be harsh, demanding, and brutally exhausting, but beneath its surface lies a quiet resilience, a steady rhythm of life. Every stone we drag, every sandstorm we endure, brings us closer not just to finishing a pyramid, but to discovering something deeper about ourselves. My breathing slows, the stars blur softly, and sleep finally claims me. Tomorrow can wait. A few hours tonight, beneath endless skies and surrounded by friends equally exhausted, life feels beautifully simple. Morning arrives with brutal punctuality, flooding the hut with golden light, far too enthusiastic for my liking. I groan, rolling over and briefly considering a life as a nocturnal pyramid builder. Unfortunately, ancient Egyptians weren't big. Fans of night shifts, probably because supervisors preferred yelling at us under the blazing sun. I suppose yelling in the dark loses some dramatic effect. Joser is already awake, calmly sipping Nile water and munching yesterday's leftover bread. Honestly, ancient Egyptians really could have used some culinary inspiration beyond dried fish, onions, and stale bread. Would it have killed them to invent pancakes, just once? Up and at it, Joser announces cheerfully, clearly immune to morning grumpiness. Today, we build ramps. Ramps, of course. How else do you get massive stone blocks hundreds of feet in the air? Alien tractor beams. Actually, maybe aliens wouldn't be a bad idea after all. At least they wouldn't yell at us constantly. Outside, The camp buzzes with nervous energy. Rumors swirl again that Pharaoh Khufu's royal inspection is definitely happening soon, though at this point he feels more like an urban legend than an actual person. Still, the anxiety is palpable, especially among supervisors who seem particularly twitchy today. Our job this morning, Joser explains, is a process involving packing mud, sand, rubble, and whatever random debris we can find into long, sloping ramps. Supposedly, these will allow us to drag the heavy stone blocks upward. Honestly, this plan sounds suspiciously simple. Nothing here is ever that straightforward. We arrive at the ramp construction site, finding it predictably chaotic. Workers shovel sand, pack mud, and argue loudly about the perfect incline angle. Apparently, there's fierce academic debate about ramp gradients too steep and stones roll back down, too shallow, and you need ramps stretching halfway to Babylon. A young worker, clearly new like me, stares nervously at the massive stone we'll soon be dragging upward. Is this even possible? He asks weakly, looking slightly green. Possible. A supervisor overhears, turning sharply. Everything is possible if you fear Pharaoh Khufu enough. Great motivational speech. Ancient Egyptian supervisors truly miss their calling as inspirational speakers. Joser chuckles softly. Relax. Ramps are easier than sandstorms usually. We join a team packing sand and mud, shaping a long, gentle slope toward the pyramid's first level. It's back-breaking, work shoveling, stomping, packing down dirt, but oddly satisfying, seeing a structure slowly take shape beneath our feet. Occasionally, someone yells advice like pack it tighter or more sand. Useful instructions, if completely obvious. Nearby, workers struggle with rollers again, arguing loudly about palm oil versus water lubrication. Seriously, the palm oil lobby in ancient Egypt must have been strong. I'm starting to think there's a secret palm oil cartel at play here. You think aliens ever argue about ramp angles? I joke, earning a few puzzled glances. Aliens again. Joser smirks. You really want them to show up, huh? At this point, I'd welcome anyone who can lift heavy objects without yelling. I reply honestly. We laugh quietly, continuing our relentless stomping and packing. Hours pass slowly, each shovel of sand making my arms feel heavier. Ancient Egyptians clearly didn't believe in breaks. I start imagining ancient union organizers advocating for mandatory rest periods, maybe fewer onions. Suddenly, a commotion nearby interrupts our monotony. A group of supervisors rushes toward one ramp, shouting frantically. Approaching cautiously, I see workers clustered around a collapsed section. Apparently, they made it too steep, causing stones to roll backwards spectacularly, though fortunately, nobody seems seriously hurt. This wouldn't happen if they used more palm oil. A worker mutters smugly, reigniting the debate. I suppress a laugh, exchanging amused looks with Joser. Ancient Egypt might lack modern amenities, but workplace drama, it has plenty of. After the collapse, supervisors become even more jittery, doubling down on micromanagement. Measure angles carefully. One shouts, obsessively. Pharaoh Khufu will measure himself. Khufu measuring ramps personally. Great. Now I picture the pharaoh himself kneeling in sand, using a golden ruler, meticulously checking ramp angles. Honestly, rulers were probably the least weird thing Egyptians invented, considering their other innovations included moldy bread, bandages and eyeliner for literally everyone. As the sun climbs higher, our ramp gradually nears completion, its slope gently rising toward the pyramid's imposing first level. Workers around me sigh in relief, proud and exhausted. Someone jokingly asks if we should name the ramp. Suggestions include Onion Ramp, Pharaoh's Revenge, and my personal favorite, Rampy McCrampface. Rampy McCrampface. Joser repeats skeptically, raising an eyebrow. Trust me, I grin, it'll catch on. Eventually, supervisors declare our ramp acceptable high praise in ancient Egypt. Now comes the hard part, dragging massive stones uphill. My muscles already protest, but I stubbornly grip my rope tighter, preparing for another round of intense hauling. Ready? Joser asks encouragingly. Nope, I reply honestly. But since when does readiness matter here? We lean forward, pulling steadily, feeling the rope bite into our palms as the stone grudgingly inches upward. The ramp holds steady, and somehow against logic and physics we succeed. Each small upward movement feels monumental, defying gravity and our own fatigue. Finally, with a last exhausted heave, we position the block onto its new resting place. Cheers erupt among our team, echoing triumphantly across the desert. Today, despite sandstorms, chaotic supervisors, and endless palm oil debates, we've achieved something truly remarkable. Walking back toward camp, Josa nudges me playfully. See, no aliens needed, just determination, sweat, and questionable ramp naming skills. I laugh quietly, exhausted but exhilarated. Ancient Egypt has tested me constantly, pushing limits I didn't even know existed. Yet somehow, amidst the chaos, there's genuine joy, here pride in small victories, humor in absurdity, friendship forged through shared struggle. As night settles again, painting the sky with familiar stars, I feel oddly at peace. Tomorrow might bring Khufu's inspection or more impossible tasks, but tonight, I'm content. We survived another day, built something lasting, and even managed a few laughs along the way. Ancient Egypt might not be easy, comfortable, or remotely predictable. Strangely, it's beginning to feel like home. Another blistering morning greets us with the intensity of a furnace. Clearly, ancient Egypt decided long ago that mornings shouldn't come gently. Today, my muscles protest even louder than usual, reminding me that ramp building and aren't exactly friendly on the body. Josa, meanwhile, appears annoyingly energetic, stretching and humming softly as we walk toward the construction site. Honestly, he must secretly be made of granite. Arriving at the pyramid, I immediately notice supervisors bustling around excitedly, animatedly discussing something new and intriguing. Whatever it is, it's clearly big enough news to distract them from their daily yelling quota, always a good sign. What's going on? I ask curiously, squinting toward the group. Josa shrugs calmly. Probably a new invention they think will make our job easier so naturally. It'll probably complicate everything. Sure enough, as we approach, a supervisor proudly unveils an odd-looking wooden contraption resembling a giant lever, with ropes and pulleys attached at various angles. Workers stare skeptically, exchanging dubious looks. Apparently, ancient Egyptians loved inventing complex solutions to simple problems, like trying to move impossibly heavy stones using sticks, strings, and hope. This, the supervisor announces, dramatically, is our new lifting machine. It will reduce your workload significantly. Immediately, muttering erupts among workers. Sure, one worker whispers sarcastically, and my donkeys secretly Pharaoh Khufu suppress a laugh, nudging Josa quietly. Think it'll work? He smirks knowingly. It'll work perfectly, until it doesn't, then they'll blame us. Fair assessment. Still, I have to admit, the contraption looks impressively engineered, especially given the limited technology available. Pulleys and levers seem incredibly advanced, considering we're basically stuck in an era before deodorant. Who knew ancient Egyptians were secretly mechanical geniuses beneath their onion-fueled exterior? After a lengthy demonstration, supervisors excitedly order us to try it out. We carefully position a huge limestone block near the machine, cautiously attaching ropes according to complicated instructions involving a surprising amount of yelling about angles. Apparently, angle-related arguments are practically an ancient Egyptian pastime. Finally, everything is in place, and workers cautiously begin pulling ropes, using the pulleys to raise the block gradually into the air. Amazingly, it works well. Mostly, the stone wobbles alarmingly, prompting shouts of panic from supervisors who urgently call for more palm oil lubrication. Honestly, ancient Egyptians and their palm oil obsession might qualify as history's first recorded addiction. Eventually, though, the block settles into position, greeted by cheers and relieved sighs. Despite its quirks, the invention actually made things easier, a rare event in our chaotic construction project. Josa whistles appreciatively. I take it back. This might actually be helpful. I chuckle softly. Careful, admitting supervisors were right might anger the gods. Nearby, workers enthusiastically discuss the new device, brainstorming improvements and modifications. One worker loudly suggests adding wheels, immediately drawing skeptical glances. Apparently, wheels are still a touchy subject, scholars still debate whether Egyptians intentionally avoided wheels for stone moving or simply hadn't perfected them yet. Personally, I think ancient Egyptians enjoyed being mysterious just to frustrate future historians. As we continue working with the new lifting device, Josa casually points out other clever tools around us: wooden mallets, copper chisels, measuring rods. Each tool, simple yet ingenious. Egyptians might have lacked modern machinery, but their creativity in solving problems feels almost magical. Ever wonder why we don't just ask the gods to lift these stones? I joke lightly. Seems easier. Josa smirks. We tried. They politely declined, said something about manual labor building character. We laugh quietly, pulling ropes steadily and watching stones gradually rise. Despite the exhausting labor, today feels oddly exhilarating, energized by curiosity and invention. Each stone lifted represents human ingenuity, overcoming impossible odds, a tiny victory against gravity and logic. At lunchtime, beneath the flimsy shade of our food tent, workers eagerly discuss the day's excitement. Today's lunch surprise, onions again, feels slightly less dreary, spiced up by animated debates about new lifting techniques. One group passionately argues about pulley placements, while another heatedly insists palm oil is still the real hero here. You know, I joke, munching another gritty onion slice. Future historians will probably debate our pulley angles endlessly. Josa chuckles appreciatively. Better than debating what we ate. True, I concede. The Great Onion Mystery probably wouldn't sell many history books. We return to work after lunch, continuing our experimentation with new tools. Supervisors seem particularly energized today, possibly motivated by Pharaoh Khufu's rumored inspectioning looming over everyone's minds. Khufu himself still feels like some mythical creature, perpetually announced but never actually appearing. Hours pass slowly, the sun crawling across the sky, casting harsh shadows. My muscles ache fiercely, protesting every pull, every rope grasped. Yet each successful lift fills me with quiet pride. Today, despite blistered hands, sunburned skin, and endless onions, we've genuinely accomplished something innovative. Late in the afternoon, supervisors suddenly announce we're finished. Shocking declaration met with suspicious murmurs. Apparently, they're so pleased with today's progress that they've declared an impromptu half-holiday. Workers cheer loudly, quickly dispersing before anyone changes their minds. Egyptians clearly appreciated surprise holidays as much as modern humans appreciate surprise pizza. Walking back to camp, Josa nudges me cheerfully. See, occasionally, miracles do happen. Maybe Khufu really will show tomorrow. I chuckle skeptically. Or maybe he's just messing with us, watching from his palace and laughing. True, Josa admits thoughtfully. Either way, let's enjoy today. Miracles don't happen often here. As evening descends gently, bathing the desert in soft purples and oranges, I reflect quietly. Today reminded me why Egypt's pyramids are so astonishing, not just their size or grandeur, but the incredible human ingenuity behind them. Every simple tool, every pulley, every lever represents creativity, stubborn determination, and hope. Despite relentless challenges, Egyptians found ways to conquer impossibility, turning desert dreams into monumental reality. Maybe that's the true magic behind pyramids, not divine power, alien interference, or cosmic alignment, but the humble brilliance of human imagination. Tonight, beneath endless stars, surrounded by friends and laughter, ancient Egypt feels less harsh, more welcoming. Tomorrow might bring Pharaoh Khufu impossible demands or unpredictable disasters, but tonight, in this quiet moment, everything feels perfect. We survived another day, inventing solutions to ancient problems and even managing to laugh along the way. Maybe, just maybe, pyramids aren't about immortality after all, but about celebrating human resilience, ingenuity, and onions. Mostly onions. Just when I think I've gotten the hang of pyramid building, reality inevitably slaps me in the face with yet another surprise. Today, that surprise involves the alarming shouts echoing across the worksite, accompanied by a small crowd gathering near the base of our half-built masterpiece. Nothing motivates weary workers faster than the possibility of witnessing some ancient Egyptian drama unfold. Josa and I exchange curious glances, quickly joining the crowd as we spot supervisors frantically waving people back, failing to maintain order. Peering through the dusty haze, I spot a worker clutching his hand and grimacing dramatically. Apparently, ancient Egyptians weren't shy about theatrical expressions of pain. Either that, or he's genuinely hurt. What happened? I whisper to a worker standing nearby, eyes wide with curiosity. He accidentally hammered his own thumb. The worker replies grimly, "It's not pretty." Ouch! I flinch sympathetically. Hammering a thumb hurts enough with modern tools. I can't imagine how much worse ancient Egyptian mallets feel, especially considering they're literally just chunks of wood. Maybe Egyptians secretly enjoyed painful hobbies to distract from endless onions and sandstorms. Supervisors yell urgently, demanding someone fetch the healer. Moments later, an elderly man appears, calmly carrying a bag filled with suspicious-looking supplies. Workers respectfully part to let him pass, watching anxiously as he kneels beside the injured man, who now looks distinctly green around the edges. "Ah," the healer murmurs thoughtfully, examining the swollen thumb carefully. "Yes, I see." Then, with an oddly serene expression, he reaches into his bag and dramatically reveals a chunk of moldy bread. "Wait, seriously?" Murmurs ripple through the gathered crowd, equal parts disbelief and mild disgust. Moldy bread as medicine. Really, clearly, ancient Egyptian medical practices involved a healthy dose of culinary creativity or possibly insanity. I'm genuinely starting to believe moldy bread was ancient Egypt's solution to literally everything. Josa nudges me gently, suppressing laughter. "See, told you moldy bread was useful." I grimace slightly. "I'll stick to eating mine mold-free, thanks." We watch with morbid fascination as the healer carefully wraps the moldy bread around the swollen thumb, securing it with fabric strips. Apparently, this treatment isn't just a weird quirk. Egyptians genuinely believed mold prevented infections, a theory modern science would eventually validate thousands of years later. Ancient Egyptians might have lacked antibiotics, but they certainly had creativity. Satisfied, the healer stands, nodding calmly. "Keep it wrapped. The gods favor moldy bread, your thumb will heal." The injured worker looks slightly skeptical, but nods gratefully anyway. After all, questioning moldy bread magic might anger gods, supervisors, or healers, not risks anyone wants to take. With excitement over, supervisors shout commands, scattering the gathered crowd. Josa and I return reluctantly to work, still quietly chuckling about the bizarre incident. Ancient Egypt truly never fails to surprise me. Our task today involves moving more limestone blocks. Big surprise, but fortunately, we have the new lifting device, making things slightly easier. As we work, I quietly wonder if future historians will find breadcrumbs preserved alongside pyramid stones, wondering about their significance, never suspecting their medicinal purpose. Hours pass, slowly under relentless sun, ropes biting harshly into tired palms. Nearby, another team struggles loudly, arguing passionately about palm oil lubrication yet again. Honestly, Egypt's palm oil obsession feels borderline unhealthy now. Did they secretly own palm oil stock or something? Suddenly, more shouts erupt nearby, quickly drawing our attention. This time, a worker has accidentally stepped onto a wooden roller, sending him sprawling comically across sand like a confused cat on ice. Workers roar with laughter, quickly helping him up and dusting him off. "I'm fine," he insists sheepishly, embarrassed, just demonstrating proper falling technique. Laughter ripples louder, supervisors shaking their heads wearily. Even ancient Egyptians appreciated comedic relief amidst grueling labor. After the excitement, we return to our ropes, steadily hauling stones upward. Muscles ache fiercely, protesting every effort, but determination drives us onward. Every stone placed represents small victories against impossibility, gravity, and questionable medicine. By lunchtime, onions, again. Naturally, workers eagerly discuss today's excitement, sharing exaggerated versions of thumb-hammering incidents, roller falls, and healer interventions. Apparently, Egyptians loved dramatic retellings, turning simple mishaps into legendary tales. Moldy bread quickly becomes today's hot topic, sparking heated debates about its effectiveness. "You think it actually works?" I ask skeptically, munching onions cautiously. Josa shrugs calmly. "Hard to say. Egyptians believe strongly in moldy bread's divine power." I chuckle softly. "If it heals thumbs, maybe it'll magically improve lunch, too." He laughs appreciatively. "Miracles have limits, even moldy bread ones." After lunch, work resumes relentlessly, the sun climbing higher, sand scorching feet and hands. Still, despite fatigue, a sense of camaraderie fills the air, humor, resilience, and shared purpose binding workers together tightly. Every joke, every mishap, every moldy bread encounter creates bonds stronger than pyramid stones. Late afternoon, Another small commotion erupts. Approaching cautiously, I spot workers clustered around an overturned basket. Its contents spilled hundreds of shiny black beetles scurrying frantically. Who brought scarabs here? A supervisor yells furiously. This is bad luck. Workers quickly debate whether scarabs symbolize good or bad luck, an ongoing academic debate even today. Personally, I decide scarabs mainly symbolize extreme creepiness. Watching beetles crawl everywhere. Josa nudges me gently. See, Egyptians debate everything, even beetles. I chuckle quietly. At least they're consistent. Finally, supervisors dismiss us, exhausted yet amused. Walking toward camp, workers animatedly discuss today's excitement: moldy bread miracles, comical falls, and scarab invasions. Despite relentless challenges, laughter and friendship thrive here, transforming harsh conditions into moments of genuine joy. Tonight, beneath familiar stars, ancient Egypt feels less daunting, more welcoming. Tomorrow might bring Pharaoh Khufu, impossible demands, or unpredictable disasters, but tonight, amidst laughter and stories, everything feels perfectly simple. Maybe Egyptians understood life's secrets, celebrating small victories, finding humor amidst chaos, appreciating moldy bread miracles, because ultimately, pyramids aren't just about stones, they're monuments to human resilience, ingenuity, and laughter, and occasionally, onions, mostly onions. Today, the desert air buzzes with unmistakable tension. Supervisors are frantically pacing, workers whisper nervously, and even the donkeys seem extra jittery, probably sensing something big is coming. After days of endless rumors, false alarms, and general paranoia, Pharaoh Khufu's inspection has finally arrived. Yes, the mythical Pharaoh Khufu himself, the guy whose insane dream of an enormous triangle we're currently hauling massive stones around to build, has decided to grace us with his divine presence. No big deal, right? Just your average day, impressing a literal god king who probably expects perfection down to every single grain of sand. Workers hustle anxiously, hurriedly sweeping paths, smoothing ramp surfaces, and meticulously realigning stones. One supervisor repeatedly shouts, "Perfection," at increasing volumes, clearly convinced yelling improves precision. Ancient Egyptian motivational techniques remain a true wonder of the ancient world. Josa nudges me gently, raising an eyebrow skeptically. Think we'll survive Khufu's wrath? I chuckle nervously. Depends. Does moldy bread work on pharaoh-induced injuries? He smirks knowingly. Hopefully, we won't need to find out. Suddenly, a horn blasts dramatically, signaling Khufu's imminent arrival. Workers quickly line up, standing rigidly at attention as a regal procession slowly emerges from shimmering desert heat waves. Even from a distance, Khufu radiates intimidating authority, draped in linen robes embroidered with gleaming gold threads. Guards flank him solemnly, gripping ceremonial spears that seem unnecessarily sharp for a construction site inspection. But who am I to judge divine royal protocols? Khufu approaches slowly, his face stern yet strangely human beneath divine regalia. Despite expecting godlike perfection, I notice subtle wrinkles around his eyes, perhaps from squinting skeptically at ramps and angles all day. Even divine pharaohs experience eye strain, apparently. Supervisors immediately rush forward, bowing deeply and nervously babbling praise about construction progress, ramp gradients, and palm oil lubrication techniques. Khufu listens quietly, expression unreadable, occasionally nodding solemnly, possibly mentally noting which supervisors to demote or exile for minor stone misalignment. Eventually, Khufu begins his meticulous inspection, carefully examining ramps, tools, and stones, occasionally murmuring instructions or mild critiques. Supervisors anxiously scribble notes on papyrus scrolls, nodding vigorously at every divine word. Apparently, Khufu's words automatically became construction law. Approaching our team, Khufu pauses thoughtfully, inspecting our stones and ropes carefully. My heart pounds nervously. What if he notices tiny imperfections or questionable rope knots? Do pharaohs punish rope tying incompetence harshly? Ancient Egyptian punishments probably involve creative cruelty or worse. Extra onions. Khufu gestures calmly to a nearby stone, his voice unexpectedly soft yet commanding. This stone's lightly uneven placement. Fix immediately. Supervisors frantically yell orders, workers rushing to reposition the stone meticulously. Meanwhile, Khufu studies us quietly, eyes lingering curiously, almost as if seeing us as actual humans, not mere pyramid-building automatons. Finally, satisfied, Khufu nods slightly, continuing onward. Workers exhale collectively, tension easing. Slightly, apparently, Khufu's legendary ruthlessness occasionally includes mercy, or perhaps minor stone misalignment. Punishment just isn't worth divine effort. As Khufu moves along, Josa whispers humorously, "Survived our brush with divinity barely." I chuckle quietly. Think Khufu secretly enjoys terrifying workers. Josa smirks knowingly. Probably pharaohs must entertain themselves somehow. Eventually, inspection concludes, Khufu nodding approvingly. Overall, those supervisors remain nervous wrecks, anxiously overanalyzing every divine twitch or glance. Workers quietly celebrate avoiding catastrophe, tension gradually easing into relieved humor. During lunch, onions again. Predictably, workers eagerly discuss Khufu's inspection, passionately debating interpretations of every divine gesture. Apparently, Khufu raised an eyebrow twice, blinked suspiciously once, and coughed ominously, clearly divine secret codes demanding interpretation. Ancient Egyptian gossip reached impressively intricate heights. "You think Khufu secretly liked our ramp?" one worker asks hopefully, chewing onions cautiously. Another shrugs skeptically. "Impossible to say. Pharaoh expressions defy interpretation." I chuckle softly. At least he didn't order executions always positive. Laughter ripples softly, tension further easing. Despite relentless demands, Egyptians found humor in absurdity, camaraderie in shared struggles, qualities undoubtedly fueling pyramids far more than onions or palm oil ever could. Afternoon work resumes quietly. Supervisors notably calmer after Khufu's departure, though occasional paranoid glances suggest lingering pharaoh anxiety. My muscles ache fiercely, exhaustion constant, but strangely, today feels satisfying. We survived pharaoh inspection, impressed divine standards, and managed laughter amidst nervous chaos. Late afternoon, supervisors unexpectedly announce early dismissal. Apparently, Khufu's approval merits impromptu celebrations. Workers cheer enthusiastically, quickly scattering toward camp before supervisors reconsider. Egyptians clearly appreciated spontaneous holidays deeply. Walking back, Josa nudges me cheerfully. "Survived Khufu, officially veteran now." I chuckle, appreciably hopefully. Surviving divine inspections gets easier. He smirks knowingly. Unlikely, but celebrating survival feels better. Evening arrives softly, stars shimmering gently overhead. Desert air peaceful after frantic day. Tonight, beneath infinite skies, surrounded by friends laughing quietly about divine inspections and near disasters, everything feels perfectly simple. Ancient Egypt tested us relentlessly. Brutal labor, sandstorms, divine inspections, moldy, bred medicine, but through every challenge, resilience, humor, and friendship thrived. Maybe that's true magic behind pyramids, not stones, pharaohs, or gods, but quiet strength of ordinary humans conquering impossibility. Laughter amidst chaos, onions amidst sandstorms. Tonight, beneath familiar stars, ancient Egypt feels oddly welcoming, perfectly simple. Tomorrow might bring new disasters, impossible demands, or divine wrath, but tonight, in this gentle moment, we celebrate survival, resilience, friendship, laughter. Maybe Egyptians secretly understood life's greatest secret, appreciating small victories, finding humor amidst chaos, celebrating friendship amidst hardship. Ultimately, pyramids aren't merely stones, they're lasting monuments to human strength, humor, resilience, and occasionally onions, mostly onions. Days after Pharaoh Khufu's nerve-wracking inspection, life at the pyramid settles back into its familiar rhythm. Stone after stone, rope after rope, onion after relentless onion, each day blending into the next, marked only by small victories, endless sand, and the occasional mishap involving moldy bread. Honestly, ancient Egypt's routine has become weirdly comforting, even if I'm increasingly convinced I'll never remove every grain of sand from my sandals. Today, however, buzz circulates through camp. Again, Khufu is back, but this time he's not inspecting ramps or criticizing stone placements. Instead, rumor has it he's here to mingle with workers personally. Something far stranger and possibly more terrifying than any inspection. Khufu socializing. I whisper skeptically to Josa as we line up nervously. "Is this normal?" He shrugs calmly. Nope, but Pharaoh's love surprising us, keeps us guessing. Sure enough, Khufu soon appears, strolling casually among assembled workers. Up close, he seems surprisingly human beneath divine regalia, eyes curious and thoughtful. Occasionally, he pauses to chat quietly with workers, asking strangely mundane questions, how long they've worked here, if they enjoy onions, which gods they prefer. Apparently, even divine pharaohs occasionally enjoyed casual conversations about onion preferences. Eventually, Khufu reaches us, eyes studying us thoughtfully, heart pounding nervously. I quickly bow respectfully, hoping I'm performing correctly. Ancient Egyptians probably had strict bowing protocols punishable by crocodile wrestling. Khufu nods calmly, addressing Joseph first. How long have you built here? Joseph bows politely. Many seasons, great pharaoh. Khufu smiles faintly, turning curiously toward me. And you? How do you find pyramid work? I hesitate nervously. Mind racing honesty probably risks divine wrath. Yet Khufu seems genuinely curious, strangely approachable. Maybe pharaohs occasionally enjoyed honesty, or possibly enjoyed punishing it. It's hard. Divine pharaoh, I reply honestly, voice cautious, but rewarding. Khufu nods thoughtfully, eyes distant. Indeed, great things demand great sacrifice. Suddenly, Khufu smiles faintly, eyes sparkling humorously. And endless onions, apparently. We laugh softly, startled by his humor. Who knew pharaohs secretly enjoyed onion jokes? Ancient Egypt truly never ceased, surprising me. Khufu continues strolling quietly, occasionally joking softly with surprised workers. Gradually, tension eases, replaced by genuine curiosity about this strange, approachable pharaoh, who knew Khufu feared, and Rivet could be quietly funny, thoughtful, and strangely human beneath divine mystique. After Khufu departs, workers eagerly discuss the encounter, sharing amazed stories about casual pharaoh conversations. Apparently, Khufu asked one worker if he'd ever considered growing onions professionally, prompting nervous laughter. Egyptians clearly enjoyed agricultural humor immensely. Lunch today is onions again feels unusually lively, energized by excitement about Khufu's casual visit. Workers debate Pharaoh's intentions passionately. Was he genuinely curious or secretly testing loyalty? Pharaoh psychology clearly fascinated ancient Egyptians endlessly. Think Khufu secretly hates onions too? I joke softly, chewing cautiously. Joseph chuckles probably, but admitting it risks divine reputation. After lunch, work resumes quietly, routine returning gently. Yet today feels subtly different, lighter, more hopeful, energized by Khufu's unexpected humanity. Pharaohs might wield divine authority ruthlessly, yet beneath regalia lays simple humanity, curiosity, humor qualities, binding us together despite vast differences. Hours pass slowly under relentless sun, muscles aching fiercely, ropes scraping painfully. Still, quiet camaraderie fills air, strengthened by Khufu's casual humor, reminder of shared humanity beneath divine masks. Every stone placed represents small triumphs of human resilience, laughter, strength amidst relentless challenges. Late afternoon, supervisors announce early dismissal again. Apparently, Khufu's social visit warrants impromptu holiday. Workers cheer enthusiastically, quickly dispersing before supervisors reconsider. Egyptians truly appreciated spontaneous celebrations deeply. Walking toward camp, Joseph nudges cheerfully. Survived Khufu twice, officially legends. Now, I chuckle appreciatively, hopefully. Pharaoh visits become less terrifying. He smirks, knowingly. Unlikely, but surviving Pharaoh surprises feels good. Evening descends softly, stars sparkling gently overhead. Desert air peaceful after eventful day. Tonight, beneath infinite skies, surrounded by friends laughing quietly about divine humor and near disasters, everything feels perfectly simple, ancient. Egypt tested us, constantly brutal labor, sandstorms, divine visits, but through every challenge, resilience, humor, friendship thrived. Maybe that's true magic behind pyramids, not stones, pharaohs, or gods, but quiet strength of ordinary humans conquering impossibility. Laughter amidst chaos, onions amidst sandstorms. Tonight, beneath familiar stars, ancient Egypt feels oddly welcoming, perfectly simple. Tomorrow might bring new disasters, impossible demands, divine wrath, but tonight, in this gentle moment, we celebrate survival, resilience, friendship, laughter, Maybe Egyptians secretly understood life's greatest secret, appreciating small victories, finding humor amidst chaos, celebrating friendship amidst hardship. Ultimately, pyramids aren't merely stones, they're lasting monuments to human strength, humor, resilience, and occasionally, onions, mostly onions. It's late in the afternoon, and the workday is crawling by like a limping beetle. The sun beats down on us with zero compassion, as always, and even Jose's sarcasm seems to be wilting in the heat. We've been hauling blocks, checking pulley systems, and dodging the occasional outburst from a supervisor who clearly missed his calling as a military drummer to distract ourselves. Conversation turns to one of the most persistent obsessions among the workers: secret chambers inside the pyramid. "You know they're hiding something in there," mutters Imhotep, not the famous one, just our resident conspiracy theorist who insists there are entire cities buried beneath the pyramid. I heard from one of the stone markers there's a room deep inside that only the priests can enter. "A room with what?" I ask, raising an eyebrow. "Snacks, gold, extra sandals." He leans in dramatically, whispering, "Something sacred. Maybe even the pharaoh's own twin soul." Joseph snorts. "Or maybe it's where they keep the nice bread without sand in it." We laugh, but the truth is, everyone wonders. These stones, we're moving hundreds of thousands of them, aren't just piled up in a neat triangle for aesthetics. There are corridors, chambers, passages that vanish into darkness. Some are sealed before we ever see them. And there's always that whisper, what are we building into this thing? Not just on it. One worker chimes in that he heard the pyramid channels energy from the stars. Another swears there are underground rivers that connect to the Nile, hidden beneath it all. I'm just hoping there's a break room in there somewhere. As we chip away at limestone blocks and smooth the edges, I catch myself glancing toward the higher levels already built. Somewhere up there beyond the ramps, past the thick stone, layers are spaces none of us will ever see again. Even the architects go quiet when you ask about the internal layout. It's all restricted access and mysterious nods. Why so many secrets? I ask aloud, more to myself than anyone else. Joseph wipes sweat from his brow. Because people fear what they don't understand, and Egyptians love mystery. We wrap everything in layers of on our dead. The idea of burial chambers isn't new. To us, we know the pharaoh will eventually be laid to rest inside this pyramid, surrounded by riches and guarded by spells, prayers, and, hopefully, thick stone doors. But there's more, always more. Something about the way the architects speak in code, the way priests linger and murmur in corners, makes you feel like the pyramid isn't just a tomb, it's a message, a puzzle written in stone for eternity to solve. One day, while delivering wooden rollers to the higher level, I overhear two priests quietly chanting inside a narrow shaft. I pause, hidden just beyond the corridor's mouth, listening as their voices echo eerily off the walls. The words are rhythmic, strange, not quite prayers but something else, an activation, a farewell. Later, I mention it to Josa. "Notice how the priests are always around during big changes?" I ask. "New chambers get sealed. They show up. Special stones arrive. They chant over them. What are they doing?" He shrugs, but there's a flicker of unease in his expression. "There's something sacred about this place." The priests say the pyramid isn't just a monument, it's a ladder to the stars. For the pharaoh's soul to climb. I pause, considering that as either a literal monument to heaven, built by men breaking their backs day after day. If you squint hard enough, it almost feels noble. Almost. Still, Josa adds, "If there's a snack room in there, I want first dibs." We laugh, the mood lighter, but the curiosity lingers. Even when you joke about it, the unknown eats at you. We build something we don't fully understand. And while most of us keep our heads down and muscles moving, a few of us on quiet nights under star-filled skies wonder what it all really means. That night, lying on my mat, I dream of endless corridors spiraling inward, downward, upward, stone walls inscribed with words I can't read, chambers filled with golden light. I hear voices chanting softly in the dark, and when I turn to look, no one is there. I wake before dawn, heart pounding. Maybe it was just exhaustion, or the heat, or maybe something deeper, some ancient part of me responding to the thing we're shaping from stone and sweat. Because what if it is more than just a tomb? What if it's a map, a beacon, a vault, a pyramid of secrets? They don't tell you how repetitive pyramid work is. After the rush of Khufu's inspection and the mystery chamber conspiracy theories, we're right back to what I like to call limestone Groundhog Day. Haul a block, place the block, smooth the block, eat onions. Repeat. If you're imagining ancient Egypt as some grand, exotic place full of constant mysticism and ritual, let me introduce you to today. 6 straight hours of stacking rocks under a sun that feels personally offended by your existence. To cope, we invent games. Today's main event, a competition to see who can carve the funniest face into a scrap piece of limestone without getting caught. Imhotep the not famous, very dash, much dash, a dash child, dash, trapped dash, in dash, a dash man, single quotes S-body. Imhotep has a clear lead with his supervisor screaming at a donkey masterpiece. I call it motivation, he says proudly, presenting his mini sculpture. The resemblance is uncanny. Even the donkey looks irritated. Djoser, usually the more mature one, carves what he claims is a self-portrait, but looks suspiciously like a moldy onion. This, he says dramatically, is the essence of pyramid life. Crying and crying, with layers. We're overtired, sunburnt, and a little delirious, perfect ingredients for nonsense. Honestly, these games are the only thing keeping us sane. Between hauling stones and dodging overzealous supervisors, we need something, anything, to make the days less crushing. There's also Who's the Most Burnt, which involves pointing at someone and dramatically wailing, "Osiris preserve you," whenever they get a fresh sunburn. We've gotten creative with our fabric wrappings, inventing all sorts of makeshift headscarves and shoulder shawls to protect against the sun. One guy came in today looking like a desert-themed mummy. We named him the Scarab King. He hasn't corrected us. As the day drags on, someone invents a chant to pass the time. Pull the rope and don't complain. Pharaoh's wrath will bring you pain. Push the stone. Don't lose your grip, or you'll be feeding Khufu's hippopotamus. It's not Shakespeare, but it has rhythm, and it's weirdly catchy. We chant it until a supervisor glares us into silence. Worth it. Even the supervisors are starting to loosen up slightly. One of them, Teti, was caught laughing at the donkey sculpture before realizing he was supposed to be mad. He recovered by loudly assigning extra mud-hauling duty, but we all saw it. Teti has a soul. Who knew? Lunch, as always, is the usual. Onions, dry bread, and a piece of fish that looks like it lost an argument with time. I miss variety. Someone once mentioned honey-dipped figs, and now we talk about them like they're mythical treasure. Imagine this, I say, between bites of sand-textured bread, a place where you can eat anything you want. Meat, cheese, dates, grapes, and nobody makes you drag a block up a ramp afterward. You just described the afterlife. Djoser says, deadpan. You die, and instead of lifting stones, you get figs and reclining. Honestly, tempting. But all jokes aside, there's something about this monotony that becomes weirdly meditative. Your body falls into rhythm. Your mind drifts. You start noticing things. The way certain stones feel warmer than others. How the wind carries the scent of the Nile all the way up to the ramps. How the smallest break just a moment in the shade feels like divine mercy. At one point, I pause to drink and spot a scarab beetle crawling across a stone. It's shiny, black, determined, just like us, in a way small, overworked, and constantly pushing things uphill. The scarab is sacred here, symbolizing transformation, rebirth, the daily journey of the sun across the sky. Fitting we're all pushing our own stones, inch by inch, towards something bigger. Later, while hauling yet another block, I glance up at the nearly completed base of the pyramid. It's massive, towering, impossibly real. I helped build that. Me, the guy who used to groan about taking out the trash back home. Now I'm part of history. Whether anyone remembers my name or not, these stones will outlive us all. Think anyone will remember us? I ask Djoser quietly. He doesn't answer right away, just looks out over the desert, watching the sun lower toward the horizon. No, he says finally, but they'll remember what we built. That's enough. And somehow, it is. As the workday ends, we gather again in camp, filthy, exhausted, and quietly content. Imhotep tries to balance his sculpture on his head while dancing. It goes about as well as you'd expect. Someone falls asleep mid-sentence. A small group plays an improvised game with polished pebbles and the remains of a broken jug. Laughter rises. The moon climbs. It's not glamorous. It's not easy, but it's real. This life, this work, it has shape. Purpose, we move stones. Yes, but we also move forward, together. And tomorrow, more of the same. And oddly, that's okay. It's barely sunrise, and I'm already squinting at the horizon like it personally insulted me. The pyramid looms ahead, half swallowed in golden haze, and I'm reminded dagging just how enormous this thing is. We keep stacking stone upon stone, and yet it never seems closer to finished. It's like we're trying to touch the sky with rocks and onions. Today's focus is precision work. That means fewer donkeys, fewer yelling supervisors, thank Ra, and a whole lot of measuring. You'd think stacking stone blocks would be brute force stuff, but apparently, the architects care a lot about angles, directions, and something they keep calling celestial harmony. Wait, I whispered to Josa as we pick up measuring rods. Are we building a triangle or summoning a star god? He smirks. Yes, turns out, aligning the pyramid with the cardinal directions isn't just a happy accident. The architects, those white-robed wizards who stare into the sun without flinching, have this near mystical obsession with the stars, particularly Orion's belt. They claim the Great Pyramid must mirror the heavens perfectly. Otherwise, it's like giving the pharaoh a wanky ladder to the afterlife. So we spent the morning adjusting the layout of new blats on the eastern face. The sun rises behind us, casting long shadows that the architects measure obsessively. They mutter phrases like solstitial alignment and stellar transit, while the rest of us do the real work, hauling, chiseling, smoothing. My job is to mark points along the row, based on the architect's shouted numbers. I have no idea what they mean, but I nod enthusiastically and scratch marks into the dust like a professional. Josa joins me, offering commentary the entire time. If we're off by even half a cubit, he says. They say the pharaoh's soul will wander forever. Seems dramatic, I reply. Maybe we just leave him a map. It's hard to wrap your head around how accurate they're trying to be. They're using nothing but chords, plumb lines, and geometry taught by men who've never even heard of a calculator, and yet they're somehow getting it right. It's infuriating and impressive in equal measure. At one point, the architect overseeing our row frowns and shakes his head. Off by the width of a thumb, he says darkly, which, translated, means tear it down and start again. Josa groans. A thumb? Are you serious? Can't we just sand it? Would you risk Pharaoh Khufu's eternal soul for a thumb? The architect snaps. Well, when you put it like that. So we pull the stones out, realign, remeasure, and repeat. All morning. It's tedious, frustrating, and a little demoralizing, till you step back and realize what we're doing. We're not just building a giant triangle. We're tuning it, like an instrument, like the sky itself will sing when it's finished. You think anyone in the future will figure out how we did this? I asked during a rare water break. Josa chuckles. Not a chance. They'll assume aliens, or wizards, or that the stones floated into place by chanting scarabs. Scarabs, I repeat. Honestly, that's not the worst theory. He raises an eyebrow. It is if you've ever stepped on one barefoot. After lunch bread, onions, the usual we're back to measuring. This time, we're aligning one of the internal corridors. It's not open to the general laborers, but someone left a side entry unguarded. And naturally, curiosity wins. Inside, the air is cool and dry, and the passage is perfectly straight. I mean perfectly. You could roll a stone ball and it wouldn't drift an inch. Even Josa is speechless, which is how I know we've entered sacred territory. This place feels different, I whisper. He nods slowly, like we're being watched, but not by anything here. It's hard to describe. The air hums, not literally, but in your bones, like the pyramid itself is holding its breath. The floor underfoot is smooth, the walls etched with faint line marks of tools, or maybe measurements no longer meant for us. We don't stay long. Josa, usually unshakable, insists we leave before the sun dips too low. Corridors shift. After dark, he says quietly. Wait, like move. He doesn't answer. Back outside, the world feels louder, hotter, heavier, but I can't stop thinking about that passage, how it aligned perfectly to the stars, how even now, thousands of years later, people will try to understand how we did it and probably never really know. By sunset, the architects finally declare our new alignment satisfactory. We cheer lightly, the kind of cheer that says, please, Ra, let us keep this one. Walking back to camp, Josa and I are quiet, not from exhaustion this time, but reflection. This thing we're building, I say slowly, it's not just a tomb. It's a message, he nods, a message to the gods, and to the future. And here's the thing, I believe him. I believe that, somehow, through rope and sweat and star charts and geometry, we're building something timeless, something beyond Khufu, beyond us, a shape that speaks without words, that points the way to something greater. Even if no one remembers our names, they'll see the message, they'll feel it, because this pyramid, this massive, maddening, magnificent thing aligns with the sky for a reason. It's not just where the pharaoh will rest, it's where his soul will rise. Festival Day. 2 words more powerful than any pharaoh's decree, more sacred than Ro's sunbeam, more energizing than a full meal without onions, which, by the way, is exactly what we're hoping for today. Work halts, ramps are quiet, supervisors stop yelling just long enough to polish their sandals. Even the donkeys look smug, because today we celebrate the festival of the Nile, or, as I've come to call it, the one day no one makes me touch a rope. It happens once every few moons, marking the river's rising and, conveniently, giving workers a much-needed break to avoid collapsing mid-haul. You'd think resting was a luxury, but here, it's practically a spiritual experience. Joseph meets me outside our hut, looking suspiciously clean. His linen is freshly washed, and his beard usually dust-caked and unruly as oiled and combed. Trying to impress the priestesses, I tease, yawning and rubbing sand from my eyes. He grins, trying not to look like a walking limestone. We join a crowd heading toward the riverbanks. Temporary pavilions dot the shoreline, decorated with palm, fronds, lotus flowers, and streamers dyed in reds, blues, and golds. There's music, actual music played on lyres, flutes, and drums. The rhythm is infectious, weaving through the air like something sacred and slightly tipsy. A priest stands near the water, arms outstretched, offering prayers to Hopi, god of the Nile. His voice is deep and solemn, echoing through the crowd as people bow their heads, some genuinely, others just waiting for the feast to begin. I whispered to Josa, "What if Hopi's just napping today?" He shrugs. Then we eat faster before he wakes up and changes his mind, and eat we do. Gone are the gritty onions and death-dry bread. Today's table overflows with roasted duck, sweet honey cakes, dates, fresh cucumbers, even wine, not the sour stuff the overseers sometimes drink, but real, fragrant red wine poured from clay jugs that drip sticky trails onto woven mats. A younger worker lifts a wine jug and shouts, "To the Nile." May it flood just enough to make us look busy, but not enough to ruin our sandals. We cheer, clink pottery cups, and dig in like gods at a banquet. The food is sweet, savory, and most importantly free of sand. I think I shed an actual tear biting into a honey cake. Throughout the day, games break out, wrestling matches, mock races with planks used as boats on dry land, even a sculpting competition using wet mud and alarming imagination. One entry appears to be a recreation of Khufu wrestling a crocodile. Bold move. There's dancing to graceful movements from the women, exaggerated flailing from the overfed men. Someone teaches me a basic rhythm, which I immediately butcher with enthusiasm. Josa claps politely, his own moves surprisingly nimble. Who knew pyramid builders could dance? I pant, he laughs. We've had a lot of practice dodging, falling, stones. Later, as the sun sets, priests release floating lamps down the Nile. Tiny flames drift along the water, reflections stretching like stars. People go quiet. It's beautiful, soft, glowing, a reminder that even in all our sweat and soreness, there's something larger holding us. I sit beside Josa, sipping the last of the wine. Nearby, someone plays a slow tune on a flute. The world feels full. Do you miss anything? I ask. He thinks. I miss silence. Real silence. Not the kind you get in camp or between commands, but the kind that sinks into your bones. Where would you find that? He points toward the horizon, where desert meets sky. Out there, no stones, no ropes, just wind and stars. I nod. I understand. As much as I'm proud of what we're building, the noise, the constant grind of it, leaves you. Even in sleep, your dreams are shaped like pyramids. Later, back in camp, we sit around a small fire. Someone passes around dried figs, the sweet kind, saved just for days like this. Imhotep plays a guessing game where he pretends to be a different god each time, and we have to figure out who is terrible at it, but hilarious. I am Set, he shouts in a deep voice, god of storms and chaos. You're just hangry, someone replies. He sulks, biting a fig in defeat. Before turning in, Josa leans toward me. You know what I think? What? I think the festivals aren't just to honor the gods. They're to remind us we're human. I look around, at the laughter, the food, the music still echoing faintly down by the river. He's right. We build for gods, but we live for moments like this when the sun rests, the ropes loosen, and we remember we're more than hands pulling stones. We're dreamers, dancers, terrible guessers of impersonated deities, and somehow, through all the repetition and rope burn, we still find joy. The pyramid can wait a day. Tonight, we are alive. The Nile is quieter today, its muddy banks glistening in the morning light as we prepare for a rare shift away from the construction site. Word came yesterday, a new shipment of limestone has arrived by barge, and it's our crew's turn to help unload it and haul it to the staging area near the ramps. On paper, it sounds like a change of pace, a nice, breezy riverside task. In reality, we're about to move multi-ton rocks through knee-deep mud under a sun that's already licking the back of our necks, like an affectionate but sadistic cat. New stones. Josa grumbles as we approach the shore, because clearly, we didn't have enough already. You'd think the pyramid was eating them, I reply. We arrive to find several wide wooden barges docked, haphazardly, half their crews already unloading. The stone's white limestone from Turaglim in the morning. Light, they're smoother than the local stuff, finer, almost soft to the touch. These are for the outer casing, the skin of the pyramid, that will shine like sunlight trapped in stone. Beautiful, heavy, completely unreasonable. A priest stands nearby, sprinkling water and muttering a blessing as workers begin unloading. Supposedly, these stones were quarried under sacred rites, marked with symbols we aren't allowed to look at too long. Rumor has it one stone bears Khufu's birth name etched in gold. Imhotep insists if you kiss the right block, you get a vision of the afterlife. He attempts it and immediately sneezes mud into his own face. Divine insight, I guess. We form a human chain from barge to shore, leveraging planks and rollers. It's grueling work. Each stone must be guided carefully, balanced on logs as we coax it along inch by painful inch. One misstep and the thing could shatter toes or worse. You ever think we're just fancy ants? I ask Josa as we reposition the rollers. He grunts. Ants don't argue about pulley angles. Touche. We work. The river moves around us, slow and steady. It's hard not to feel humbled. The Nile gives life to everything here. Crops, trade, gossip. We owe her everything, even these monstrous rocks, shipped down from quarries miles away. During a brief break, we sit beneath a palm tree and watch crocodiles sunning themselves across the river. One of them blinks lazily, jaw half open. Josa tosses a pebble vaguely in its direction, not close enough to hit, just to acknowledge the beast. That one's name is Mary, he says. Really? He nods, short for Maria. Likes fish, hates supervisors. Same. We sip water from clay jugs, look warm, but better than nothing. The breeze is gentle, and for a moment, things almost feel peaceful. A few boys splash in the shallow edge of the river, racing little reed boats carved into animal shapes. One kid proudly yells, "Mine is Horus," before immediately tripping and face-planting into the mud. Laughter erupts, including ours. Then the barge tilts slightly. A few workers shout. The next stone is too big, too slick with condensation. We rush back to help, tightening ropes, shifting balance. A near disaster, one edge dips sharply, but we counterpull just in time. The stone lands with a heavy thud. On the platform, a puff of sand exploding like a sigh of relief. Someone mutters. Raw must be watching, or laughing, I think, but keep that to myself. By mid-afternoon, the final stone is unloaded. We line them up in the staging zone, brushing off mud and marking each block for its destined place on the pyramid. It's strange how personal it feels like, arranging puzzle pieces you know you'll never get to see completed, but still want to place just right. The last barge departs quietly, paddles dipping rhythmically into the water. I watch until it's a blur against the reeds, wondering where the next shipment will come from. Who will touch these stones next? Who will seal them into the face of eternity? As we head back toward camp, Josa sighs and mutters, "One day, I want to sail down the Nile and not carry anything." "You mean, like, for vacation?" He smiles faintly. "Yeah, Vacation, float past the temple of Karnak, eat something with actual flavor, sit and do nothing unimaginable. He laughs. Exactly. At camp, we clean off in the communal basin just enough water to scrape off the worst of the mud and sweat. Someone's playing a simple rhythm on an overturned pot. Another hums an old tune. Imhotep appears with a fish he claims leaped directly into his arms. We don't ask questions. That night, the Nile's scent lingers on the breeze, green and wet. I fall asleep to the sound of frogs and distant drumming, and I dream of drifting down river not as a builder, not as a servant, but as someone free, floating beneath the stars, towards something new. Superstition is like the sand, it gets into everything. Your clothes, your work, your food, your mind. Even the most rational workers, I know guys who can eyeball a 10-ton blocks. Center of gravity still throw a bit of salt behind them when they drop their chisel or whisper to a scarab for luck before hauling a stone. And today feels cursed. It started before sunrise. One of the bakers burned the first batch of bread. An omen, someone whispered. Then a cartwheel snapped. Then a palm tree fell over without warning. And finally, poor Seti tripped and smacked face first into a pulley post. 3 chipped teeth. Everyone agrees something's wrong. Imhotep is in full prophet mode, of course. He's declared we've angered a god, possibly several anspens, the entire morning flicking droplets of water from his fingers and muttering under his breath. Is that an official ritual? I ask. No, he says, dead serious, but it feels sacred. Joza, meanwhile, is not buying it. We're just tired, he says, yanking a stubborn rope into place. Tired men blame gods for clumsiness. Still, even he flinches when a snake slithers right through the tool pile. Snakes are a big deal here. Wadjet the cobra goddess protects kings, temples, and sacred places, so seeing one in the work zone, definitely not on the list of good signs. Someone yells for a priest. Someone else offers the snake a dried fish. The snake wisely ignores us all and slides away. The rest of the day feels like walking through fog. Tools go missing. Stones shift slightly in strange ways. A gust of wind knocks a papyrus plan off a platform, and it disappears into the desert like a feathered curse. I'm telling you, Imhotep insists, there's a spirit here. Maybe an old builder who was crushed and never left. His ghost got bored and decided to cause minor inconveniences. I say yes, he hisses. Death doesn't make you less petty. Honestly, fair point. Later, during a short break, one of the newer workers tells a story about a cursed chamber deep within the pyramid, sealed long ago by priests who feared it too much to even mark it. He swears he saw one of the overseers slide a stone aside last night and whisper something into the dark. We ask what. He just shudders. DJOSER, of course, tries to lighten the mood. He builds a tiny shrine out of pebbles, sticks a beetle on top, and offers it a bite of his onion. Protect us, great god Scaraby, he declares. Someone gives a dramatic bow. Another starts chanting. Before long, it turns into a full-on fake ceremony. We all laugh, partly because it's silly and partly because it feels better to laugh than to wonder why everything feels off. Still, when the sun starts setting, I notice that people pack up faster than usual. No one wants to linger. Not today. Back at camp, dinner is oddly quiet. The usual banter is gone. Even the bread feels heavier. A few workers sit near the fire, recounting the old myth souls who didn't receive proper rites, spirits trapped inside tombs, gods who test men with tricks disguised as bad luck. Imhotep, warming to the attention, leans forward and whispers, "You know the scarab, the sacred beetle that pushes the sun across the sky." We nod. They say if it walks backward, it means death is walking with it. Everyone stares. Then, one of the younger workers quietly excuses himself and walks away, pale. "Why would you say that?" I ask. Imhotep shrugs. "Knowledge is power. Fear is more powerful." I make a mental note to never leave him alone with nervous people again. Later that night, I lie awake staring at the stars. The wind is restless. It rustles the reeds like whispering voices. The moon is a thin blade above us, and even the frogs along the Nile are quieter than usual. I hear footsteps. Quiet, deliberate, not panicked, not running. I sit up. It's just Joza, walking a slow circle around the camp, checking on people, like a silent shepherd of sleep. You feel it too? I ask Tot. He nods. pausing beside me. Some days the pyramid pushes back. What do you mean? We stack, we carve, we align. But maybe we forget this isn't just stone. It holds something. Memory, spirit. All the people who've touched it, laughed near it, bled into it. It's alive in its own way. A chill trickles down my spine. Not fear. Exactly. More like awe. The weight of that idea presses on my chest like the pyramid itself. What do we do? I whisper. He shrugs. What we always do. We keep building. In the morning, the sun will rise like it always does. We'll return to the stones, the ropes, the ramps, and whatever bad luck stalked us today. Maybe it moves on, or maybe it just becomes part of the pyramid, like us. But tonight, I sleep lightly, one ear open, just in case I hear a beetle walking backward. There's a new energy in the air today. And not the usual kind panic from an unexpected royal visit or collective dread over a broken pulley. No, this is something else. Something I didn't expect to feel out here. Dragging stones through the sand for months on end. Excitement. The end is in sight. We're not done yet, don't get me wrong. There are still weeks, maybe months ahead. But now, when I look up from my work, I don't just see scaffolding and rough angles. I see the outline of the capstone. The Benben, Josa whispers, almost reverently, the very top, the place where heaven kisses earth. I raise an eyebrow. I thought that was the supervisor's ego. He chuckles, wiping sweat from his brow. No, this is different, sacred. Once we place that last stone, the pyramid becomes complete. Not just built but activated. Activated. I don't know if he means spiritually or symbolically, but either way, it sounds like we're building a giant God-powered beacon. Which, frankly, wouldn't surprise me anymore. Every worker is buzzing with purpose. The ramps stretch higher than ever. The stone lines have tightened, less guesswork now, more artistry. We've learned, adapted, hardened into machines of muscle and grit and intuition. We move as a unit now. Ropes taut, voices timed, tools like extensions of our bodies. Even the supervisors are different, less shouting, more nods of approval. And when a block fits just right, there's a soft hum of satisfaction that ripples through the crew, like we're tuning something cosmic. It's like solving a puzzle, I say as we guide another stone into place. No, Josa replies. It's like building a sentence, and we're almost at the last word. The Benben itself is still being carved. Rumor says it's a single piece of limestone, polished smooth, coated in gold leaf, so it'll catch the first light of dawn and shine like a sun born from stone. Nobody's seen it yet, except the high priests and a handful of master builders. Imhotep claims he's dreamed of it, though saw it floating. He insists, during lunch, mouth full of dates, in the middle of a chamber. No walls, no roof, just sky and the stone humming like a song only gods can hear. Sounds like you drank spoiled beer, someone mutters. I wasn't drunk. Imhotep snaps. This was a vision. Josa leans over to me. He was absolutely drunk. Still, the idea sticks with me. A final piece. The last breath of this monument. The one stone that makes all the others make sense. And there's something else, something no one says aloud. But we all feel it. The fear. What happens after? We've been here so long. This has become our life. The stones, the sweat, the jokes, the onions. Who are we when the ropes fall slack? When there's no more pyramid to build? You think we'll be dismissed? I asked Josa that evening as we watched the sun dip behind the horizon, turning the stones pink and gold. Maybe, he says, or maybe we'll be sent to the next project, another pyramid. Could be. I stare ahead, imagining starting over. New site, new ramp, new supervisors, same old stones. I kind of thought this would be it. I admit that once this was done, everything would change. It will, he says, just not how we think. As night falls, a quiet ceremony begins near the base of the pyramid. No announcements, no formalities, just a line of workers, placing small offerings, carved beetles, worn tools, bits of food at the base of a foundation stone. It's unofficial, but deeply human. I left my first rope hook, Josa whispers. I thought you lost that in the mud. She let me have my moment. I placed something too, a smoothed pebble from the Nile, polished by weeks in my pocket. Not valuable, not even symbolic, but it came with me. It saw every sunburn, every blister, a tiny witness to everything we've done. When I lay it down, I feel something shift inside me, a loosening. The end is coming. It's real, and I'm not ready. The pyramid isn't just a thing we built. It's something that built us. Who we are, now the endurance, the patience, the trust in strangers who became brothers that didn't exist when we started. We were just workers. Now we're something else, something harder to name, but no less true. That night, I dream of standing at the very top, the benban glowing in the morning sun, light streaming from every edge. Below, the desert breathes, and the Nile hums like it always has. And I hear a voice, not words, just presence, as if the pyramid itself is awake, telling me, thank you. The stone feels different in my hands today. It's not lighter, don't be ridiculous, but there's a reverence to the way we touch it now. Fewer jokes, less shouting. Even Imhotep's dramatic sighs are muted, because this isn't just another workday. This is the final touch. The benbin has arrived. It came in before sunrise, shrouded in linen, carried by a special crew of hand-picked workers and guards who look like they haven't blinked in 3 days. No one's allowed to touch it except for a select few, and even then, only under the guidance of the high priests. Josa and I watch from a respectful distance as the linen is pulled back. Gasps ripple through the crowd. It's radiant. Even in the dim morning light, the gold-coated capstone reflects like it's lit from within. We've moved thousands of blocks, but this one shines like it knows it's important. That's it, Josa murmurs. The last stone. The pyramid becomes whole. The air around us feels heavy, like the desert is holding its breath. Only the most experienced builders are chosen to help guide it up. I'm not among them. Neither is Josa. And to be honest, we're fine with that. Not because we don't care, but because watching it being part of the atmosphere is somehow enough. The entire pyramid site is silent as the benbon begins its ascent. Pulley lines stretched like spiderwebs across the top ramp. Men move slowly, deliberately, as if rushing would offend the gods. The high priest walks ahead, chanting in a slow, melodic rhythm that rises with the sun. The stone glides upward, drawn by hands that shake just slightly. You can feel the nerves, the awe. Every muscle on the site is tense. And then, after what feels like an eternity, it's there. The benban settles gently into its place, a perfect fit, a gold-plated kiss to the sky. And the moment it does, everything changes. There's no explosion, no divine thunderclap, just a shift, a stillness and a sound. At first, I think it's wind, then a murmur. Then I realize it's us, cheering slowly at first, like it doesn't feel real, then louder, rolling across the site like a tidal wave. Some of the workers are crying, others drop to their knees. Even the donkeys seem strangely emotional, though that may just be because they sense a break coming. It's done, Josa says. I nod. It's done. We stand together in the dust, staring up at the completed pyramid. It gleams, sharp and proud against the sky. A sunbeam made solid. Our monument, our monster, our impossible, incredible creation. And still, the work isn't entirely over. The priests begin their rituals almost immediately. Incense, chanting, symbolic offerings, one of which appears to be a perfectly roasted goose. Imhotep immediately tries to sneak a piece and is very publicly scolded. Another team begins inscribing final hieroglyphs, names, prayers, dedications to the gods, a record carved into the eternal walls of the king's home in the afterlife. Josa whispers, I heard they're leaving chambers inside, sealed forever, with secrets. I heard they're sealing a full boat in there, I reply, so the pharaoh can sail the sky. Don't forget the jars of beer, he adds. Even divine spirits get thirsty. We laugh softly, but our voices are hushed by the wind. The kind of hush that only happens when you're near something truly sacred. A procession begins, priests, musicians, nobles all, climbing to the base of the pyramid to offer their final blessings. Workers line the edges, watching quietly. There's no resentment, only pride. Exhausted, aching pride. One of the priests approaches us with a clay bowl filled with black coal. He smears a line across our foreheads and says, You helped build a ladder to the stars. May the gods see your hands. It's the highest compliment I've received in months. By sundown, the pyramid casts the longest shadow I've ever seen, stretching across the desert like a hand touching the edge of the world. Fires flicker across the site. Someone starts playing a flute. Others begin dancing, slow and tired but joyful. I find a quiet spot and sit. watching the final sunlight reflect off the Benbun like a second sun. You think it worked? I ask. Djoser, you think the pharaoh will reach the afterlife? He nods. We gave him the staircase. Whether he climbs it is up to him and us. We'll be remembered by the stones, not by name. Not in stories, but in the spaces we shaped. In the perfect alignments. In the harmony between rock and sky. I trace my finger in the dust and whisper thanks, not to a god or a king, but to the work itself, to what it turned us into. Stronger, wiser, still tired, but somehow whole. Tomorrow, maybe we'll be assigned somewhere new. Maybe not. Doesn't matter. Because tonight, we finished the impossible, and the stars above us know it. The camp is quieter now. The pyramid stands complete, a gleaming monument to the gods, to the pharaoh, and somehow most surprisingly to us, not a single stone out of place, not a rope left dangling. The ramps are coming down, piece by piece, revealing the smooth outer casing underneath, like peeling back layers to reveal a finished sculpture. It's beautiful, impossible, terrifyingly final. Our work is done, and yet, I keep waking up before dawn, half expecting to hear the horn. My body still aches in all the usual places, and I catch myself reaching for tools that are no longer there. Even the donkeys look confused, sniffing around for stones to drag and finding only sand. No more shouting supervisors. No more debates about pulley angles or the merits of palm oil. No more hauling stones so heavy they haunt your dreams. Instead, we have idle time. The first day of nothing feels like floating. We wander the site, not really knowing what to do. Some people start cleaning. Others carve their names into leftover stone scraps. Djoser finds a stick and starts teaching kids how to draw straight lines in the dirt. Imhotep tries to organize a pyramid trivia game. It goes poorly. The prize is a slightly burned onion. By the third day, most of the workers have packed up. New orders are being handed out, some to return home, others to join new building sites far up the river. Word spreads that Khufu is planning a second monument. Djoser and I exchange looks that say, maybe don't answer that call. We climb to the plateau one last time before leaving. From here, the pyramid doesn't just dominate the view, it is the view. It cuts the sky in half. It reflects the sun like a mirror. You can see the Nile from up here, bending lazily through the land like a painted ribbon. You can see the workers' camps, the smaller tombs already under construction, even distant, caravans on the horizon. I wonder how long it'll stand, I say, breaking the silence. Djoser shrugs. Longer than we will. That hits harder than I expect. We sit in the sand for a while, passing a skin of water between us, neither of us saying much. The pyramid is still heavy, and somehow, alive. I swear I hear it breathe. I left something inside, Djoser says after a while. I glance at him. What? He smiles faintly. A tiny carving. Just a symbol, buried in the foundation layer, under the north ramp. What kind of symbol? He hesitates, then traces something in the sand. It looks like a spiral, or a sun, or maybe both. It's not for the pharaoh, he says. It's for the next person who finds it. If anyone ever digs that deep, I stare at it, then nod. I hope they understand. They won't, he says, but that's okay. We don't say goodbye to the pyramid. It feels wrong, like saying farewell to a mountain or the sky. You don't leave something like this. You just carry it with you, whether you mean to or not. Back at camp, I packed my few belongings, a worn rope fragment, a pebble shaped like a heart, and the small carving tool I didn't technically own but somehow kept anyway. Imhotep gives me a dried fish wrapped in linen and whispers, "For your next vision." Let's hope it's better than the last one, I say, grinning. He nods solemnly. You were glowing. Djoser finds me just before we head out. So, back to your old life. I shake my head, not sure that life fits anymore. He thinks for a second, then hands me something, his old measuring cord. To keep you straight. I laugh. That's what the moldy bread was for. We walk together until the path splits, his caravan going south, mine east. No tears, just a firm nod and a shared memory that doesn't need words. As I move further into the desert, I glance back one last time. The pyramid stands unchanged, eternal, silent, but in my mind I hear it speak, not in words. In presence, you were here, you mattered, and somehow, that's enough. There's a hush that settles over the desert when the wind dies down like the world is holding its breath. just for a moment. That's how it feels now, standing at the edge of memory, watching the last flicker of day disappear behind the stone I helped place. The pyramid is still there, of course, it always will be. But something in me has shifted, softened, grown. I used to think this was just labor, that we were just hands pulling ropes. But looking back, it wasn't just about moving stones. It was about shaping something that could outlast time, something that could whisper across centuries. I was here, I helped build this. And maybe, in your own life, wherever you are, whenever you listen to this, you've been laying your own stones, piece by piece, quietly, repeatedly. Maybe it's not a pyramid. Maybe it's a family, a book, a business, a dream. The work is slow and hard, sometimes lonely, but someday you'll stand back and see what you've made, and you'll feel it. That hum beneath the surface, that soft glow in your chest, that quiet voice saying, "You did this, so for now." Wherever you are, close your eyes. Let the dust settle. Let your heart rest. The stars above you are the same ones that watched us build. They remember. Sleep well. Builder. Tomorrow will wait. Good night, everyone.